of you have some friends that ask for your help a lot, right? And they ask you because they know that you'll do it, right? And I have some friends like this, and in particular, a lot of times people ask me to help them move. Now, I just helped Michael move into his new place. I don't know where he's at. Michael, where are you at? But I helped Michael move into his new place. So this is not about you, Michael. But it's not. It's about people before that have asked me to help them move. And it's not everybody. I've started just like as I'm looking around, I've helped a couple people move. And so this is not about anybody in this room. Let's clarify that. I was like, man, I've helped you. Okay, there's more than 3. So no, not talking about anybody in this room. Let's clarify. But, you know, that you go to help them move and they say it's going to take an hour, right? And you get there and it's been 2 hours, right? And they're asking, yeah, man, thank you for your help. And you're like, man, I committed to an hour. No, you committed to helping them move. They just said it may take them an hour, you know? And it's like, y'all ever been in that situation where somebody asked for your help, but they needed more than just what they asked for? Yeah, been there, done that, right? Because ultimately when people ask for help, it's sort of this blind commitment that has sometimes, I feel like has crossed over into how we perceive our relationship with Christ. And we have limited, some of us maybe have limited our relationship with Jesus to saying yes to him through raising our hand, but not fully understanding that this isn't just a Sunday or a Wednesday thing, but this is a commitment to living a transformed life, right? And sometimes, especially in your teenage years, many of you have come to Christ where you've been in this service where you've raised your hand to accept Jesus as the Lord in your life, Lord of your life. This great repentant, surrendered. Man, you're on this journey, but it seems like that was the climactic moment that you reached and that there's nothing left. But actually, there's so much more. Come on, look at your neighbor and say, there's more. There's more. And what I think sometimes we confuse is like I raise my hand to step into relationship, but not understanding what comes along with being in a relationship. Y'all with me? Some of y'all, junior high or high school, like you've already started to figure that out, even in the context of maybe having a boyfriend or girlfriend. You're like, I did not sign up for this, right? The idea was great. The actual, follow through of the idea, not so much, right? Don't raise your hands on that, some of y'all in the room. But, I think sometimes that can be discouraging, right? I raised my hand. I've made this move, but a lot of us, we made a blind commitment and not understanding the full kind of details of what it means to follow Jesus. And we're working better on this and how we present the gospel to you, because we also want to make sure that, yes, we understand that Jesus loves us, but as a result of Jesus loving us and us responding to that love, there should be something different that starts to take place in your life. Because you get from a place of being rooted in your own ideology, your own way of thinking, and instead you become rooted in loving Jesus, but understanding that being rooted in loving Jesus is going to produce different fruits than what you were experiencing prior to knowing Jesus. And so we're talking about committed because I want to be intentional as I can, because the reality of it is I have most of you for 7 years of your life. Some of you are going to be graduating soon. You just started coming here. But I want to make sure that I'm setting you up, that our team is setting you up for success to know what it means to commit to following Jesus, to know what that looks like. Jesus gives us a perfect example in Matthew 10:39. He says this, whoever finds their life will lose it. And whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. That's a tough verse to swallow, right? Whoever chooses to say no to self will find it. See, We're talking tonight we're going to be doing different I am committed statements to help bring about as much clarity as we can in what it means to be disciple, meaning follower of Jesus. So the first thing tonight that we're talking about is I'm committed to the service. I'm committed to the service. I'm committed to the service. Let's read 2 Timothy 2:15. It says this, do your best to present. Everybody say present. Present, we're gonna come back to that word, it's important. Yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. What's happening here in this passage? So Paul, the author of 2/3 of the New Testament, right? Had a huge transformation moment, has started to build churches, and he has some people that he's mentoring. Timothy is one of the people that he's mentoring. What's happening in 2 Timothy is Paul is encouraging Timothy that hey, there's some false teachers that are teaching right now, but here's what I want you to do. Here's what actually, not that I want you to do, what we're called to do. And what's super important as we look at this word present, so present in the Greek is called parathesia. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's important. And it means this, to present oneself for service. To present oneself for service. See, upon our commitment to Jesus, we have made a commitment to serving God and following how he has instructed us to live. We have committed to the service, to serve him, to follow and be obedient to him. And we're just gonna answer and kind of tackle this question tonight. And the question is this, how do I live a life that is committed to the service of God? How do I live a life that's committed to the service of God? And the first thing is this, is focus on putting a smile on God's face. This year, focus on putting a smile on God's face. We all have found ourselves in positions where we will go above and beyond to put a smile on someone else's face, right? Whether it's our coaches on our sports teams, whether it's that guy or girl that you like, right? We find ourselves in different scenarios a lot of times where we're trying to bring a smile to someone's face, and because we're doing this because we're wanting to be noticed. We're striving to be noticed. And some of us have already started this year with the mentality of how am I going to bring a smile to this person's face? How am I going to bring a smile to this one? What is going to be required of me this year to make this person happy, to make this person smile? And what we find ourselves is sometimes after we've made this commitment to follow Jesus, we start dipping our toes back into our old life, our old ways, the old self, the old creation, and we start kind of maneuvering back to who we were and not who God's called us to be for the sake of trying to bring a smile to someone else's face. Do your best to present yourself. Focus on putting a smile on God's face. And I want to read you this passage that's found in John 14, verse 15, and it says this. It says, if you love me, keep my commands. Let me just point out that if you can just set your goal, not just for the year, but for life, to put a smile on God's face, you're going to start seeing people with smiling faces, the right people. But it starts with putting a smile on God's face. And how do we do that? Well, Jesus says, if you love me, keep my commands. Follow me. Keep my commands. This is important for us to understand. See, the way we demonstrate our love is by obeying God's commands. And can I tell you, love cannot be separated from obedience. The act of love is falling in line in obedience. Are y'all following me tonight? As we're focusing on putting a smile on God's face, not worrying about what's happening to our right or to our left, but having just the single focus of saying, you know what, God, I'm striving to put a smile on your face. How do you do that? Well, Jesus says, if you love me, you obey my commands. Obeying commands, key word, obedience. Obedience is the sign of love. But here's what I want you to understand. That you can still focus, because it's not bad to try to get the coach to notice you, right? It's not bad for all these other things. And here's why. For example, for a certain sport or learning a certain instrument, you know, obeying God's word. Let's check out one of the commands and emphasis, Colossians 3:23. Paul writes that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Watch this. It just put everything into a single perspective that when I'm obeying God, I'm playing sports, I'm in band, whatever it may be, fill in the blank, and I'm implementing obedience to what Paul is stating in Colossians, doing everything that as I'm doing it unto the Lord with excellence. Guess what? I'm able to make these people over here happy because I'm just being obedient to what God has already called me to do. Live life with purpose, intentionality. Does that make sense for everybody? But it starts with being, with the mindset of understanding that, you know what, I'm trying to put a smile on God's face. And as a result of doing that, it's gonna start giving you a lot more clarity, especially as you start trying to dive into relationships. If you're striving to put a smile on God's face and that guy or girl is having not a smile on their face, well, there's your answer. Are y'all following me tonight? And it's something simple that you can start with just the mindset, you know what, I'm gonna put a smile on your face, God, and let every action that you commit to throughout the day reflect that decision, that I'm putting a smile on God's face today. I'm committed to the service of God. So focus on putting a smile on God's face. Second thought is this, to this question: how do I live a life that is committed to the service of God? Back up the talk with the walk. Back up the talk with the walk. Do you have anybody in your life that they just talk a big game? Like they're just arrogant all the time. Like they're saying, oh yeah, you know, if you can jump 5 feet, they can jump 10 foot. Right? Like, or maybe like a common thing, especially throughout school, when we're in gym, it's like, can you dunk? Yeah, bro, I can dunk on a 12-foot goal. Prove it. Prove it. Right? Like, you know those people who are just always talking a big game. They have this big talk, and the number one answer that I've just found out just in living life is just like when people talk that big game, I'm like, all right, prove it. Prove it. Back up the talk with the walk. And this is what Christ is calling us to. All right, you follow me. You're obeying you're wanting to follow me, be in relationship with me. Let's prove it. And now here's what you're probably thinking. Well, I thought I didn't have to do anything to earn God's love. You don't. That's freely given. But there should be a response for us truly experiencing God's love and who he is and the truth of who he is. There should be a difference in how we live. Does that make sense? So I don't want us to get to this, because as I was writing this, I was like thinking like, man, that's a tough thought to communicate. But it's the truth and it's a reality that, man, I prove, like, and, you know, even Jesus says, like, people will know that you're my followers by how you love. We just talked about the way we demonstrate love is through what? Obedience. Are y'all following me? tonight? So it's not that you're needing to perform works to enter this love. It's that you have already entered this love. If you have accepted Jesus as the Lord of your life and chosen to follow him, now it's about living a life that's birthed from that love. Back up the talk with the walk. James chapter 2, verse 14, it states this. What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is poorly clothed and lacking daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace and be warmed and filled, without giving them the things they needed for their body, what good is that? So also, check this out, faith by itself, if it does not have works, it's dead. Faith by itself, if not accompanied by works, is dead. This is so important. Again, this is not a works-driven gospel, but it's a gospel that drives us to certain works. Right? He gives this just beautiful analogy. I love what James says. It's like, all right, you see someone who's cold, who's hungry, and you just say, yeah, well, be warm, be filled. What? No. As a result of following Jesus, guess what? You should be the one to say, you know what? I will clothe you. I will feed you. Are y'all following me? James is giving such a beautiful picture of what it means to back up the talk with the walk. See, I could have raised my hands in a service, right? I could know a couple of stories from the Bible, right? Just from growing up hearing grandma or papa talk about them, right? I can know a couple of stories from the Bible, but until my faith is matched with my service, I'm committed to the service, until my faith is matched with the work, James is saying that your faith may be dead. The word service is an action. It's an action. It's a verb. It's an action. It requires action. Can I tell you, if you're stepping into 2023, as we're stepping into the year 2023, I want people to see me. I want people to see you and know that Jesus is alive by the way that you live. And the way that I'm able to show that is through action, which is my service to God. I'm committed to service, the service of God. See, can I tell you, transformation occurs through taking action that's rooted in obedience. It's a good thing to write down. I forgot to put it on the slides. Whoops. Transformation occurs through taking action that's rooted in obedience. It's about living a transformed life. I'm committed to the transformed life, right? Back up the talk with the walk. I want to put a smile on God's face. I want to focus in on that. I want to back up my talk with the walk. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. We'll dissect the rest of that passage next week. But I want to tell you, you didn't just accept Jesus into your life, that one camp, that one retreat, that one youth service, just for you to just get a little bit of peace for a moment. You didn't just raise your hand just to get a little bit of a joyful feeling for the remainder of your time that you were either here or at a camp. No, you raised your hand because you wanted to experience a permanent change within your life. You want to experience a transformation that leaves you looking at your past like, man, I don't know who that person is anymore. And as we're diving into this series, Committed, and talking about the different I am committed to statements, I want you to have that in mind. That don't let your faith be so shallow where it's just the hand raised and I never do anything with it. But that you seek desperately the things of God by doing what we talked about today. Just something simple of being committed to the service. By focusing, man, I'm gonna put a smile on God's face before I worry about putting a smile on anybody else in the world's face. Right? By saying, you know what, I'm gonna back up my talk with the walk. And I'm gonna demonstrate my love for Jesus by being obedient to his commands because I want to live a transformed life. Not a life of my past, but the new life that God has promised me in my present. So I want to encourage you, as we start diving into this series, maybe you just need to start, as each week we're starting to write down on a sticky note and put it on your mirror or something that you are committed to. First week, the service of God. And can I tell you, the biggest hope that myself and our youth leaders have for you is that you would do your best to live out the commitment that you have made to follow Jesus. It's not that you're not gonna have mistakes here along the way, but it's that you would strive to want more for your life. That you wouldn't settle with just a shallow faith, but you would start doing the deep internal work in your heart and recognize that, man, there's something beautiful in store. Transformation is beautiful. And you can have that right now. Some of you have already been starting the process of walking that out. But I want to tell you it's tangible and it's possible.